Tonight I'm going to go over 10 early childhood teacher tips for a successful school year. Tip number 1, communicate with families. Start your year off strong by communicating with families before the start of the school year and with more frequent updates during the first few weeks of school. So before the school year starts, it's important to connect with families via email and maybe even phone calls with certain families, especially if they're not responding to emails, and find out important information about their children and any concerns they might have, and just to help to ease the transition and let them get to know you a little bit. Some teachers even start out by home visits, and this is a great option for a really smooth transition if you have that extra time. Step number 2, collaborate with families. Find out about children's strengths, struggles, and interests, and parents' expectations before the school year starts. So this is going to kind of coincide with communication with families, but even more so, you finding out what the parents expect and what they are thinking their children will learn, or their children will make friends, socially and emotional. Finding out what their expectations are is going to really help you a lot in working with their children. And not that you're going to necessarily cater to it, but it's just good to know that those are their things that are important to them. And then when you're meeting with them, you can kind of maybe avoid heavy focus on academics, and you can talk about all of their friendships, or maybe they're worried because their child does have a little bit of social anxiety. So that could be a heavy focus with you when you're communicating with them throughout the year, as opposed to a focus on something that they really don't care too much about. And finding out children's interests is going to really help you out throughout the school year as well, especially at the beginning of the year. To maybe you can even have some things if the child loves playing house, you could have a house set up, or if the child loves a certain cartoon, you could have maybe a match game or something to that effect that will really help the child transition and feel more at home at the beginning of the school year. And strengths and struggles, again, are going to help you a lot to find out, well, this child really doesn't like to be really social, and they're a little bit shy. So maybe at the beginning you're going to just be more lenient on that and give them more time to adjust, as opposed to encouraging them on something they're really just not comfortable with yet. And the parents are going to have strategies as well to encourage the children to work with you in the classroom. So if a child has a hard time concentrating, I know I had this in the past, and they just kind of were busy and couldn't hear me when I would talk to them. It was like they were ignoring me, but I knew they weren't. And I talked to mom and dad, and I found out they say, hands on your hips, eyes on me. And that was the signal for this friend to stop, hands on his hips, look up, and the teacher had a message. So his hands weren't busy, his eyes were looking, and he was ready to stay focused. Step number 3, create a welcoming classroom for your children right at the beginning of the year, and this is going to help to build that safety and security they need to let them be ready to learn. So some ways you can do this is have pictures of your children with their family members. So this will help bridge that gap from home to school as well, not just pictures of the children, but pictures of them with their family. And then they're going to feel like that's really their classroom. It's not just a place they go, it's their place. Incorporate materials that represent your children and their interests. So this is where, when we found out what those interests are from the children, well, you can put some of those things in the classroom. And if you know that they like board games, you could have some board games. So really focusing on that. And then also having cultural representations is going to help with children as well. So maybe having books that match every child's ethnicity in the classroom, or books that represent every different kind of family structure. And this is going to make every child feel like they're a special part of the classroom. Step number 4, create a safe and consistent classroom. So how can we do this? We can do this by having an environment that offers a wide variety of engagement. Children can work together or they can work alone. They can have a quiet space to tuck away if they're really just wanting to be alone and needing downtime, or they can have a busier choice. Schedules are also going to help children feel really secure in having those consistent routines so they know what to expect. Building relationships. This is a good one, and this is so important that we build those strong relationships starting right at the beginning of the year. The children are going to be more apt to listen and to work with us and to do all the learning we are hoping that they're going to do if we have a good relationship with them, and if they like us, and they're going to like us by us building those relationships. Offer freedom through choices. Children like to have some control too. They don't want to be told what to do all the time. They want to feel like they have choice in their educational experiences. So giving them little choices like, do you want this pen or this pen is nice, but then it's also nice if you are able to, during free choice or center time or in Montessori classrooms, they get to choose throughout the day. But letting them be their own guides through the classroom. And there's always going to be times you're going to have group or individual lessons planned, but giving them a lot of choice, especially at these younger years, is going to really motivate them to be intrinsic learners. Start with classroom meetings. This is going to be a great way to build your classroom community where they care for each other, they feel needed, and they feel like they all have value and they all belong there. So this is going to help a lot as well with problem solving and just bringing it to the classroom and letting them take ownership and talk about what needs to happen. So, and then setting them up for the schedule for the day. Those morning meetings as well is going to really be helpful. Be flexible. So as teachers, sometimes we come in with these plans and we want to stick with these plans, and we know children want consistency, that's all true, but at the same time, when something changes, we have to show that we can go with the flow and be that model for the children. Also, if your children, you have a lesson planned and your child stayed up all night that you're going to give the lesson to, we're not going to give that lesson. We're going to follow what the child needs at that moment and be flexible. So self-reflect every day. As teachers, it's so important that we are doing a quick self-check and saying, are we free of chatter in our brains? Are we present with the children? Are we doing and saying the right things? And when we are present, then we are in the moment and we are doing the right things. But it's important that we're doing this because children naturally are going to mimic us. This is part of how they learn, is by watching and then mimicking. So we want to make sure that we're being our best selves so that the children will give us their best selves. And step number 10 is the most important: have fun. Children need to have fun in order to be intrinsic learners. So if we want them to be motivated and excited to learn, then we need to make learning a joyful experience, and we need to show how fun it is, and then they'll have fun and we'll continue to learn together throughout the year.